Level 1. Private. The drill sergeant's mouth is 3 inches from your face, and you can smell the coffee on his breath and the hatred in his voice, and you don't move. You don't blink. Your skull is freshly shaved, and the Georgia sun is cooking the back of your neck, and there's a bead of sweat sliding down your spine, and you stand perfectly still because standing still is the only thing you're allowed to do right now. You are nothing. They will remind you of this every single day for 10 weeks. You signed the contract 6 weeks ago in a strip mall recruiting office between a nail salon and a payday loan store. The recruiter smiled too much. He talked about college money and career training and the pride of service, and you nodded along because you were 19 with a GED and $300 in a checking account, and no other doors were opening. The signature took 4 seconds. The consequences will take decades. You arrive at Fort Moore with 60 other recruits. You are E1. Private, the lowest enlisted rank in the United States Army. Your base pay is $1,833 a month. Before taxes, you don't choose when you eat, you don't choose when you sleep. Every minute of every day belongs to someone else, and that someone else despises you by design. The system strips you on purpose. Same haircut, same uniform, same boots, same expression. You are not a person here. You are raw material. The Army doesn't want your personality. It wants your obedience, your reflexes, your willingness to do exactly what you're told without processing it through the part of your brain that asks why. You learn to make your bed so tight a quarter bounces off the blanket. You learn to disassemble an M4 carbine in under 60 seconds. You learn to run until your lungs taste like copper. You learn that the guy next to you matters more than you do. This is the first rule of the system. The individual is disposable. The unit is everything. Some recruits wash out. They cry at night. They quit during ruck marches. They get sent home with paperwork and a bus ticket. You don't quit. Not because you're tougher, because you have nowhere else to go. Graduation day comes. Your family drives 8 hours to watch you march. Your mother cries. Your father shakes your hand. You wear the uniform, and for one afternoon you feel like the decision was worth it. Then they ship you to your duty station, and the real Army begins. Level 2. Specialist. You've been in for 2 years now. You're an E4. Specialist. The rank is a paradox. You're experienced enough to know how everything works, but powerless enough that nobody asks your opinion. You are the backbone of the Army, and the Army treats its backbone like furniture. Your base pay is $2,800 a month. You live in the barracks. Your room smells like boot polish and energy drinks and mildew. You share a bathroom with a guy from Alabama who dips Copenhagen and spits into Gatorade bottles he leaves on the counter. You don't complain because complaining is a currency that buys nothing here. You've learned the invisible rules now, the ones no regulation covers. You know which sergeants are competent and which ones got promoted because they stayed in long enough. You know that the duty roster is political. You know that the guy who volunteers for everything gets rewarded, but the guy who's actually good at his job gets punished with more work. You know that we're a family means you will sacrifice and leadership will take credit. The motor pool is your life. You maintain vehicles that cost more than your parents' house. You fill out maintenance forms in triplicate. You stand in formations in the rain waiting for information that could have been an email. You do layouts where every piece of equipment is displayed on the ground and counted and recounted, and you stand there for 6 hours while a lieutenant who's been in the Army for 11 months checks serial numbers off a clipboard. You start to feel something shift inside. The eagerness is gone. In its place is a low, steady cynicism that hums like a generator. You still do your job, you do it well, but you no longer believe the system rewards merit. You believe the system rewards compliance. There's a decision coming. You can stay enlisted and try for sergeant, or you can finish your contract and get out. The recruiter's promises about college money were technically true. The GI Bill is real, and it's the most valuable thing the Army will ever give you. But leaving means starting over. Staying means climbing. And somewhere inside you, despite everything, the climbing appeals to you. You re-enlist. The bonus is $12,000, taxed. You sign the papers in a battalion conference room. The commander shakes your hand. Nobody throws a parade. You tell yourself you're staying for the stability, for the benefits, for the retirement pension that kicks in at 20 years. You don't admit the real reason. The real reason is that the Army is the only place where you've ever mattered, even if mattering means being a number on a readiness report. Level 3, Sergeant. You sew the chevrons on yourself. 3 stripes up. E5, Sergeant. Non-commissioned officer. For the first time in your career, you are responsible for other people's lives. They give you a team, 4 soldiers. 2 of them are competent. 1 is lazy. 1 is 18 years old, fresh from basic, and looks at you the way you once looked at your first team leader, with fear and fragile respect. The transition hits harder than you expected. Yesterday, you were one of the guys. Today, you write counseling statements and enforce standards and tell a 20-year-old he can't leave post on a Friday night because he failed his PT test. He looks at you like you've betrayed him. You have. That's the job. You learn that leadership in the Army isn't about inspiration. It's about accountability. You sign for equipment worth $2.3 million. If a night vision device goes missing, it comes out of your life. You inspect weapons. You check rooms. You make sure Private Dominguez is awake at 0445 for PT, because if he's late, it's not his failure, it's yours. Your first sergeant pulls you aside one morning. He's been in for 17 years. His marriage fell apart at year 12. He tells you that being an NCO means absorbing pain in both directions, from the soldiers below who resent you, and from the officers above who ignore you. He says this without self-pity. He says it the way a mechanic describes how an engine works. You deploy for the first time, 9 months in a country you'd never heard of before the briefing. The days are long and hot and boring, and then suddenly they're not boring at all. You hear gunfire that isn't training rounds. You make decisions in seconds that you'll replay for years. You bring everyone home. You don't talk about what that cost. When you come back, your girlfriend has moved out. She left a note on the kitchen counter. It says she tried. You believe her. You start to understand something nobody told you at the recruiting office. The Army doesn't just take your time, it takes your relationships, your sleep, your patience, your ability to sit in a quiet room without scanning the exits. But it also gives you something: authority, purpose, the knowledge that when you speak, people move. That's a drug, and you're starting to need it. Level 4. Staff Sergeant E6. Staff Sergeant, you're a squad leader now. 12 soldiers. You've been in for 8 years and the Army has reshaped your skeleton. You stand differently. You speak differently. You process the world through threat assessments and risk matrices, and you don't even realize you're doing it. Your base pay with allowances clears $5,200 a month. You have a house off post, a truck payment, a new wife. She's prior service. She understands the life, or at least she says she does. You have a daughter who's 2 years old and you've already missed 4 months of her life for training rotations. You run your squad like a machine. Morning PT at 0630, maintenance Mondays, training schedules planned 6 weeks out. You know every soldier's weakness, their family situation, their breaking point. You know that Corporal Hayes drinks too much on weekends. You know that Private First Class Nguyen sends half his paycheck home to his mother in Houston. You know that your newest team leader, Sergeant Aldridge, is sharp but arrogant and needs to be humbled before he gets someone killed. This is where the moral compromises start calcifying. A soldier in your squad gets a DUI on a Saturday night. Battalion wants to chapter him out. You know this kid. He's a good soldier who made a terrible decision because his father died 2 weeks ago, and the Army's behavioral health office had a 6-week waiting list. You go to bat for him. You write a statement, you put your reputation on the line. Your first sergeant tells you to let it go. The Army is bigger than one soldier, he says. You keep pushing. The soldier gets retained. 6 months later, he gets another DUI. He's separated within 30 days. Your first sergeant doesn't say I told you so. He doesn't have to. You learn a rule that sticks. Compassion in this system is a liability. Not because the system is evil, because the system processes people in volume, and volume doesn't allow for nuance. Second deployment, this one is harder. You lose a soldier, not to combat, to suicide. He was 22. He came to you 3 weeks before and said he was struggling. You referred him to behavioral health. You followed up twice. You did everything right. He died anyway. You sit in your truck in the parking lot after the memorial ceremony, and you grip the steering wheel until your knuckles go white, and you don't cry because you've trained yourself not to cry, and you're not sure anymore whether that's strength or damage. You put in your packet for Sergeant First Class. Level 5, Sergeant First Class. E7. Platoon Sergeant. You are the senior enlisted advisor to a lieutenant who is 24 years old and has a degree in political science from a state university and has never been shot at. You are 31. You have been shot at. The power dynamic is officially in his favor. The real power dynamic is not. This is the fulcrum rank. You're high enough to shape policy at the company level, low enough to still touch the ground truth. You translate between the officers who plan and the soldiers who execute. You are the filter. When leadership makes a bad decision, you absorb the impact before it reaches your platoon. When your platoon screws up, you absorb the blast before it reaches leadership. You are a human shock absorber, and the shocks never stop. You manage 40 soldiers now. Their problems are your problems. Marriages falling apart, financial crises, mental health spirals, misconduct, injuries. You are part counselor, part enforcer, part father figure, part executioner. Some days you're recommending a soldier for an award. Some days you're recommending one for separation. Sometimes it's the same soldier 6 months apart. You sit on promotion boards now. You evaluate other NCOs. You've developed an instinct for who will succeed and who will break. It's not about physical toughness anymore. It hasn't been for a while. It's about emotional endurance, the ability to compartmentalize, to care deeply about your soldiers while accepting that the institution does not care about you. Your wife says you've changed. You have. You come home and sit in silence for 45 minutes before you can speak. You watch your daughter's school play and your mind is running through the training schedule for next week. You're present and absent simultaneously. You tell yourself it's temporary. It's not. It's who you are now. The retirement clock is ticking. You're at 13 years. 7 more and you get the pension. 50% of your base pay for the rest of your life. That number is the golden chain. Every decision from here forward is weighed against it. Can you endure 7 more years? The answer is always yes, because the alternative is walking away from everything you've invested. You start thinking about Sergeant Major, Level 6, Master Sergeant, First Sergeant. E8. You've split the path. You pin on the diamond and become a First Sergeant, the senior enlisted leader of an entire company. 120 to 200 soldiers answer to you, not to your commander. To you, the commander sets the vision. You make it real. You are the law at the company level. Morning accountability goes through you. Disciplinary actions go through you. Every soldier who has a problem ends up in your office, standing at parade rest, explaining why they failed to meet the standard. You've heard every excuse, every story, every lie dressed up as a misunderstanding. Your base pay with entitlements exceeds $8,000 a month. You've been in for 18 years. You've deployed 4 times. You've served under 11 different commanders. You've watched the Army change around you. New uniforms, new weapons systems, new policies on gender integration, new emphasis on resilience training. The fundamentals never change. The fundamentals are accomplish the mission and take care of soldiers, in that order. Sometimes the order breaks your heart. You make a decision this year that keeps you awake. A young female sergeant reports sexual harassment by a staff sergeant in your company. You believe her, the evidence supports her, but the staff sergeant is your best squad leader, tactically brilliant, beloved by his soldiers, months away from a deployment where his skills could save lives. You refer the case to the battalion commander. It goes to investigation. The staff sergeant is removed from his position. Pending results, his squad suffers. Readiness drops. The commander is furious about the timing. Nobody thanks you for doing the right thing. The sergeant who reported feels isolated. The accused feels betrayed. The commander feels undermined. You sit alone in your office at 1900 hours on a Thursday, eating cold Popeyes from a bag, and you realize that moral clarity and institutional reward rarely coexist. You've become the system now. You enforce rules you didn't write. You uphold standards you sometimes question. You punish soldiers for infractions you committed yourself when you were their age. The hypocrisy doesn't bother you anymore because you understand something the young soldiers don't. The standard isn't about fairness. It's about order. And without order, people die. Your daughter is 15. She told your wife she doesn't really know you. Your wife relayed this without accusation, which made it worse. You think about retiring at 20. Taking the pension? Coaching softball? Being home. But the board for Sergeant Major is next year, and you've been on the list, and turning it down means admitting the climb is over. You don't turn it down. Level 7. Sergeant Major Command. Sergeant Major, E9. The pinnacle of the enlisted ranks. You are a Command Sergeant Major now. The senior enlisted advisor to a battalion commander, a colonel, a man who controls 800 soldiers and $400 million in equipment. You sit in command meetings. You brief generals. You shape policy that affects thousands. Your title carries weight that cannot be overstated. When you walk into a room, every enlisted soldier stands. When you speak, NCOs with 20 years of experience listen without interrupting. You are the voice of the enlisted force at the highest levels of leadership, and that voice carries the accumulated authority of 24 years of service. But the isolation is total. You have no peers in your unit. There is one Command Sergeant Major per battalion. You cannot confide in subordinates. It would undermine their confidence. You cannot confide in the commander. It would undermine his trust. You carry the weight alone. You process alone. You decide alone. You travel constantly, visiting companies, inspecting barracks, attending memorials, shaking hands with senators who visit the post for photo opportunities. You've become a politician in camouflage, managing perceptions as much as people. You choose your words with surgical precision because a single offhand comment from a Command Sergeant Major can destroy a career or shift the culture of an entire battalion. The soldiers don't see you as human anymore. They see the rank. When you walk through the motor pool, conversations stop, soldiers stiffen, the easy laughter evaporates. You miss being a staff sergeant, close enough to the ground to hear the truth, low enough that people spoke honestly around you. Up here, everyone performs. Everyone says what they think you want to hear. The truth reaches you filtered, sanitized, delayed. You attend a retirement ceremony for a soldier you served with 20 years ago. He was a private when you were a sergeant. Now he's a master sergeant, getting out at 22 years. He looks tired but relieved. His wife looks relieved. His kids look like they finally have their father back. You shake his hand and smile and say the right things and drive home in silence, wondering what relief feels like. Your marriage survived. Barely. Your wife is strong in ways you don't deserve. Your daughter is in college. She's studying psychology. She once told you, half joking, that she chose the major because she wanted to understand why you are the way you are. You laughed. It wasn't funny. The sergeant major of the Army, the single highest-ranking enlisted soldier in the entire force, retires this year. There are whispers that your name is on the short list. You tell yourself you don't want it. You do. The ambition never dies. It just learns to hide. But you know what that job costs. The sergeant major of the Army belongs to the institution completely. There is no private life. No off switch. You become a symbol, and symbols don't get to be tired. You look at yourself in the mirror one morning. Dress uniform, medals from 4 deployments, senior parachutist badge, combat infantryman badge, ranger tab. The uniform weighs 11 pounds. The man inside it weighs less than he did 20 years ago. In every way that matters.